For outsiders, the fintech industry feels like such a giant maze that you don't know how to get in. And whenever you want to get in, often people will tell you, no, you don't have the industry experience. So it feels like a no through road. But then how can I ever get experience being an outsider if you don't allow me to come in, right? Well, there are actually ways to get relevant experience while being outside the industry. So I am a fintech industry insider who has no previous finance background. So I had some hypotheses on how and where people can enter the industry from. So I researched on about over 1,000 people with the fintech tag in my LinkedIn network. And here are the findings that I'm presenting to you. The most presentable functions are actually in the engineering, product, data science, and consumer insights domain. That makes sense because fintech is, after all, financial and technology. What's interesting is that, surprisingly, I have not really seen many corporate finance people coming over to this industry, even though that's also said, called finance. This obviously is not the complete list, although I did include like HR and legal, but the number of such roles are way less. The industries people typically enter from are most commonly banks or broadly the financial services industry, and here it also includes investment as well as a broader definition of financial services. Number two are the tech and digital industries. So it's easy to understand why digital, because the digital companies, they usually offer digital use cases. And here when I say digital, it's really more of the platforms, meaning that like e-commerce platform, ride sharing platform, and all that. So platforms, they usually connect the B2B and B2C aspect. So they have both the business and consumer customers. For both, they try to offer more financial services because that would be part of their offering and also make their whole ecosystem grow better. As for technology, it's understandable that people come over from the software as a service or cloud services because most of the fintech solutions today are in the cloud. Mobile phone and app store here. So you can imagine that if you have a fintech app, it would be great that your app is already pre-installed in the mobile phone. Or if you have some sort of partnership with that app store that you get promotion. And then we have IoT there, the Internet of Things. It's because nowadays in the smart city movement and also a lot more in general, fintech or payment are more and more ingrained in our day-to-day life. So you would love to, have your refrigerator to order the eggs, or you make your car buy the fuel for you instead of you having to take out your car. Number three are the traditional industries and government. So this is no longer sort of news like a lot of telcos, retail chains, and also F&B companies. They have ventured into e-wallets or other financial services, say loan or installment, and a lot of these things is because these industries, their common similarity is that they are day-to-day use cases. So, and they usually always have very broad customer base as well. And for retail, the other trend is that many of the brands, they don't want to rely on e-commerce platforms and they want to run their own brand.com e-commerce. And that means they have to optimize their entire service, including the payment or the fraud piece. And as such, payment function has become important for them too. Then I mentioned just now the automobile home appliances, and in the manufacturing side, they might choose to do this payment integration themselves instead of engaging an IoT third party. And here, the unique industry is insurance. Insurance is kind of financial services, but it will always be mentioned separately because it's similar, but it's not that the same. So then now we have InsurTech, which is kind of similar, but it's also not the same. But the good thing about this industry is if you join insurance, which is relatively not that difficult to join, and then you are pretty much in InsurTech given how the industry is growing and evolving. So if you are already in InsurTech, it's pretty much easy to, you are already in the fintech ecosystem, and it's easy to move over into the fintech side. And then travel and hotel. So now, there are some airlines started their super app kind of building, namely AirAsia. Singapore Airlines had their own e-wallet as per se, and then some hotel chains are also working on this sort of initiatives. Well, whether this will actually work out, these use cases are a lot less frequent comparing to, say, F&B and retail. But, well, the opportunity to move into the industry is there because you can use that as a stepping stone. Whether or not they will be very successful, that will be a separate question. Another random card here is the government. So government generally now they have opened up more positions to look at or to look after the vertical of fintech. It's not that common, or it's not. There are still not many roles. But say in Singapore context, if you have super good academic background, and then this could be a direction even without the fintech background you can move into. The number 4 is consulting and startup. So of course management consulting is another hard to get into kind of domain, but you can always go into the general discipline first and then move into specialization. Of course, as the sort of fintech domain getting more and more popular, you will face fierce competition too. One area for fresh graduates or people in their young, earlier days of career can be actually market research companies such as Nielsen, Kantar, or Bloomberg, Thomson Reuters kind of companies, where because you handle data, so that is one strength for moving into a very data-heavy industry like fintech. The other thing is that a lot of them tend to handle financial data as well. So it is, and I have also seen, even in my personal career, seen quite a number of people move from their such companies in their early part of their career into fintech successfully. Then another one that is relatively easier to get into is actually like event or media kind of companies where they also can have fintech discipline. So in general, any service firms that can split into industry specialization, they can give you an opportunity to focus on the industry, build network within the industry, and learn, gain the understanding of that domain. And for example, recruitment agency is another one that has pretty easy, sort of low entry barrier, although competition is again pretty saturated as well. Lastly, I've also seen quite a number of people who started their own fintech startup in, say, cryptocurrency or blockchain, even though they don't have fintech background. And after that, when they decided to go back to corporate, they now have that fintech experience as well. So these are some of my research findings, and I hope they will be useful for you.